So today's message, you guessed it, spring cleaning. Spring cleaning. Now often when we think of spring cleaning, we think of an outside thing. We think of a cleaning up my space thing. A heaviness seems to come about us because it's that thing that if it was easy to do, it would already be done. So it's that thing that we've put off because we don't want to deal with it. But as we saw from the skit, it can be incredibly freeing, incredibly powerful. But let's start, as all things start, inside and work our way outside. First, with our thoughts. We start, our thoughts create things, so let's start with our thoughts. Now, when a lot of people try to get into the land where Mary lives, into the world of meditation, they say, I have a challenge shutting off my brain. My brain just wants to go and go and go and go and go. So first, let's talk about how to spring clean your thoughts. There's two really good techniques. You can choose which one's right for you because there is no one right way for everyone with everything. But here's the first one. Having meditated for years and years myself, what I found was my brain was a lot like a 3-year-old child. And I would tell it randomly, like suddenly it never had a bedtime before in its whole life, and out of the blue I wake up one day and say, I'm going to meditate, so you're going to go to sleep. And my brain would say, no, I can't, I have to think about all these things. I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking, I need to go to the bathroom. Can I get a glass of water? Anybody relate? How do we train our children? It's the same way we can train our brain, through simple consistency. We say, every morning when I wake up, I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes. Or every morning at 9 o'clock and every night at 9 o'clock, I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes. Or 20 minutes or a half hour, an hour, whatever works for you. At first, let's say you meditate for a half hour in the evening. At first, it's a new concept for your brain, and your brain wants to argue against it because the brain is connected to the physical body, is the ego, that says, I, your meat suit, am who you are. So if we let you venture too far into that spiritual world, I may lose a little importance, being a physical being. So try to distract you. Now that being said, as we train our children, we can also train our brain. So when we consistently say, every night at 9 o'clock, I'm going to meditate. The first week, you may get 29 minutes of mind chatter and 1 minute of meditation. By week 2, you're probably getting up to 5 minutes of meditation. A short time later, 50-50. At some point, the brain begins to give up. And at 8:50, the brain already begins to shut down because it knows what's coming. It knows that bedtime is here. It knows that meditation time is here. So you can train your brain. That's one technique. And for folks who like to work their way through something, it's a great technique. Now, there's Cliff Notes. There's a speedy version. When you go to meditate, your brain wants to say all these things because you finally slowed down enough your day to listen to your thoughts. So your brain says, ooh, now that I've got your attention, this, that, these, those, boom. An easy, simple visualization. Picture a dry erase board in your mind, and every thought that you have instantly winds up on that dry erase board. And before you even take time to read it, you erase it. And the brain keeps going, and every thought you have winds up on that dry erase board. Before you even read it, you erase it. You do that technique about 4 or 5 times, and the brain goes, shucks. He or she just isn't listening to me. I might as well just quiet down and give him or her that meditation space that they're wanting. Now those are 2 techniques for decluttering your mind, decluttering your space, your internal space. And as we declutter our internal space and our thoughts, then we can go to the next manifestation of our reality, which is our energetic space, our soul, our spirit, our chakras, our meridians, our energy bodies. Now with this, there's a lot of different tools, a lot of different techniques available to you. A simple meditation like Mary did, a net of white light, taking everything that is not serving you right out the bottom of your feet. Now being an energy worker myself since I was a little kid, I would ask God, I would ask Jesus, and I would say, Jesus, what do we do with all this stuff we took out? Now you have to imagine me as a 5-year-old healer, this was a profound question. today. It remains a profound question. But anyway, as a 5-year-old kid seeing this see-through hippie guy that hung out with, that I got to hang out with, I would ask questions and I would hear answers. And we would take this negative energy out of folks that might be in the form of ailment or disease or distress or cancer or any of these things. But as we would take that negative energy out, I would say, Jesus, what do we do with it? What do we do with it? And the answer that I believe that I heard, and excuse the tone, but this is the way that it made sense in my head. The BS of your yesterday can be the fertilizer for your tomorrow. Just that simple. This manure that I'd been carrying around had a purpose. And I would take all of this stored up energy, of all this negative energy, and transmute it to a positive. Energy is just energy. It's not good or bad. That electricity, is it good or bad? Well, that depends. If I'm using that electricity to cook my meal, it's good. If I'm in an electric chair and that same electricity is being used to cook me, not so good. The electricity itself has not a dog in the fight. It just is what it is. Energy is just energy. So to take all of that negative energy, that stored up energy out of your body, and to sprinkle it onto your dreams of tomorrow, giving those dreams use of that energy to manifest more quickly and more easily than you thought possible. That's one technique. The next technique, we get to work a lot with the Native Americans. We get called in to work with the Shoshone, the Arapaho, and the Lakota. And they bring us in to heal their medicine men and to work with their tribal councils and to work with their grief circles. And being a kid who sees energy, I see the tools and I see what works energetically and what I see doesn't work energetically. Now on the reservation, I have seen more grief than I have inside of any other current, right now alive group of folks. We got to go into a talking circle and the people would say why they were there, what grief they were trying to get over. And I'll never forget the one lady, the first time that we were there, said, in the last 6 months I've buried my husband, 2 of my sons, 3 of my daughters, and 8 of my grandchildren. I hurt. I could not, nor would I want to, even imagine the amount of energy, pain that this woman had. And as I would work with the medicine man, and I would see him take this simple herb of sage, and I would watch the smoke from the simple plant cleanse these energies in a really profound way. I went, wow, that stuff works. I've been around sage for a long time, so I've seen it work for a long time. We're not in it alone. God has given us a little trail of breadcrumbs, tools, allies. The whole world is pulling for our success. The simple plant and the smoke from it does an amazing job of cleansing the aura, cleansing the energetic field. And as I would continue to work with the Native Americans, I saw that sometimes some of those energies were more stubborn. It didn't want to move yet, didn't want to leave yet. And so we would break it up a little bit. Now, in modern technology, when you say you have a gallstone, you go into the doctor, you go into the hospital, what do they use? Sound waves. And they bust those little stones up into little powder that flushes out of the body effortlessly. They no longer need to cut you open and physically take the rock out. They blast it with sound. I watched the Native Americans for years utilize the voice of the drum to bust up those harder energies within us into little pieces, more easily manageable, that flow out of our bodies. The main thing with these energies in our bodies is our free will, our connection to these energies. We think we have stuff that makes us us. We have our story. You don't understand my story. I don't understand your story. My story is part of what makes me who I am, and in my story are these past things of pain or discomfort or challenge. The things that I have lived through, the things that I have overcome. Help me to make me who I am. Help you to make you who you are. And so we hold on to these things tightly, even though we don't really want them. It would be like putting a bungee cord around this pulpit and to myself and saying, let's go for a nature walk. This is not going to be a real comfortable walk if I'm carrying this with me. What crosses do you bear? What things do you carry with you, regardless of how heavy they are? The natives have an amazing tool for this, an amazing tool. When I watched it work the first time, I cried. At some point, I was, just tell you a little backstory. There was a lady who was going through her commitments to be a sun dancer. And part of those commitments that she was honoring was, towards the end of her journey, was 3 days fast. 3 days, and 3 days, no food. 3 days, no water. 3 days, no leave the sweat lodge. Let me tell you, if anybody here, show of hands, anybody ever been in a sweat lodge? You will find someone to pray to if you get in a sweat lodge. It is an experience in its own. But 3 days of not leaving the sweat lodge, with no food, with no water, it is an amazing purification process. And at the end of her 3-day sweat that I was helping with, and so were some medicine men, and they invited us in, it was great. At the very end, we had a feast, and at the end of the feast, she was presented with a feather from an eagle as part of the regalia for her sun dancing. And the energy and the power of this feather was just profound. Now, the lodge that we were in, the sweat lodge that we were in, pardon me, is in Casper, Wyoming. It's run by a medicine man named Steve Weber, who's a very good friend of mine. And it's an eagle lodge. And what that means is that inside of the sweat lodge, himself and the other hooked up folks or sun dancers or spiritual folks, while they're in there, while they're in that version of a church, and they need the medicines they call sage medicine, no prescription needed. Eagle parts they call medicines. And when they're in need of medicines of some of these eagle parts, they will ask to connect to the spirit of the eagle. Any eagle who has already left its body, and that energy, that spirit would like its body utilized in the sacred way. And they will connect with the spirit of that eagle. And they'll walk out of the sweat lodge and they will walk or drive to a specific place, walk right up to the body of the eagle, and take it back to the lodge for preparation. This is amazing stuff. But anyway, at the end of this woman's 3 days in a sweat lodge, 3 days no food, no water, at an amazing temperature, she was presented with a golden eagle feather. And it was just amazing. But I turned around and I looked at everybody was gone. And I thought, oh, I wonder what happened. And I continued eating a grape. And I turned around and everybody was back. And some of these native elders and medicine people said, Scott, you've been coming onto our reservation for a lot of years. And over those years, you've accumulated a lot of tools to do your job more effectively. The spirits say it's time for you to have this tool because it's important to the work that you're about to do. Now, I told you when I had just seen that woman experience as she quote-unquote earned her feather. And they presented me with this golden eagle wing, the entire wing. This was used inside their sweat lodge for 3 years. For 3 years. Now, the energetic things that you are emotionally attached to, your story, your past, these things that I've never been able to get disconnected from in the past, negative relationships, negative things. What I've seen with this is it slices right through those energy connectors. So if there's any energy connectors, anything that you have chosen or you didn't know how to let go of from your past, this is some major form of spring cleaning, folks. Now, bear in mind that after today's service, I invite everybody who wants to come out in the courtyard, and we will use all of these tools with you and for you. The drum, the sage, and the eagle wing to help with the next version of your spring cleaning, your energetic body. So we'll start with your thoughts. We'll move to your energetic body and release that old. And then we'll invite you. We will give you tools so that when you go home this week, you can carry that experience into your physical world. As Americans, we have so much stuff. And even though we have so much stuff, we're dreaming about more stuff that we can get. I think it's great if you have 30 blankets in your house. I think that's wonderful. At one point in time, I was homeless in a Volkswagen van with no windows in the middle of South Dakota winter. I'd have given just about anything for one of those blankets that sits in your closet that's been of no use to anyone in years. Now, if you use your blankets, by all means, keep them. If you use them even once in a while, because when you have guests over and you make up the spare bed, it has a purpose. I'm not talking about that stuff. That's box 1 and box 2 stuff right there. I'm not talking about the quilt your grandma made you. That's so important. That's box 3 stuff. What I'm talking about is the things that you don't use, that you haven't used. Help get them into the hands of someone who can actually use them. Declutter your physical space. Maybe there's a hobby that you used to have, and when you used to have that hobby, you bought all the things to do that hobby. Oh, and I had this, and I had that, and I could do this, and I could do that. It was so great, I was so geeked, I was so enthusiastic, and I love doing this thing. Cool. When's the last time you used it? If you're using it, honor it. Bring it out in a place where you can see it. Use it more often. Don't let it go to waste. But if you say to yourself, I will probably not ever set up my model trains again, or my scrapbooking, or my tile laying tools that I bought for a job when I retiled the bathroom 5 years ago that I used for one job, and it's just that. Imagine if you're the tile contractor who in a tough economies, wet saw has broken, and you can't afford to go get a new one. But you cruise by a yard sale and here's this wet saw that'll help you feed your family. We can take the things of our yesterday and pay them forward into our tomorrow. The same way we do with our thoughts. We then do with our energies. We then do with our physical world. We help the world as we help ourselves and each other with God's blessing. I invite you, I implore you this week with your homework assignment. Go home, clear out your space. Whatever is the BS of your yesterday, turn it into the fertilizer of your tomorrow. Feel lighter, refreshed. See the joy that comes from helping someone else make use of that which you no longer have use for. When Mary and I were moving out here, we, like most families, went to U-Haul and said, what do you cost for a U-Haul truck to move our stuff? And they said, $1,500. We went, do we get to keep the truck? They said, no, that's just to use it for a week. I said, well, gosh, that doesn't make much sense to me. How about you, honey? Nah. I said, well, heck, you know, the furniture in one house rarely looks good once you get into the next house anyway. So let's get that stuff, that furniture, those big pieces out to people who can use them right here in South Dakota. And for our little stuff, let's see if we can't find us an RV that we can buy for about $1,500. We went on Craigslist and we found one. And we loaded up our treasures and we drove it 2,200 miles at 55 miles an hour. 2,200 miles across the country to Florida. And once we had bought our house, we realized that we had no use for this RV. Occasionally we might use it, but really we didn't have much use for it. So we looked at this item, this RV, that had moved all of our stuff and had already accomplished its job, and we said, God, how can that be of use to someone? And so energetically we connected that RV to the person who could really, really use it. The people who ended up buying the RV came to look at it. It was a woman, single mom, 3 kids, who had had her house foreclosed. And she was staying on the couch of her folks. Imagine staying on the couch of your folks with 3 small children. Knowing that they love their grandchildren, knowing also that they don't really like SpongeBob SquarePants 82 hours a day. But he's stolen, it's mine, and this, that, and then watch the grandparents go, let's go bowling. Let's just go. I love them. But please. Anyway, they found this RV on Craigslist and they bought it. And they bought it for about $1,500. How about that? Cost us nothing to move. Win-win. But to watch these little kids go into that RV who had had no space, every night they would fight for their place on the couch and where their hefty bag was going to be. To watch these little kids run into that RV and say, that one's my bunk. I'm going to put my posters up around it. I've got these drawers for my stuff. To watch it shift the whole dynamics between this daughter and her dad, the mom and the grandpa. As they joked with one another, The grandpa said, now you guys have your own space. And the daughter said, yep, and it's on wheels, so if we continue to not get along so good, I have options. And the dad looked at the daughter and said, and that's a two-way street. The bottom line, though, is I feel like they were very blessed from the experience. I feel like the children were blessed. I feel like this thing that would have been a lawn ornament has more use now than I could have given it, than Mary and I and our family would have given it just on weekend trips. This thing is now someone's home. What do you have around your home that could be of use to someone else? I challenge you this week to declutter your space, starting with the inside and moving its way to the outside. Thank you.
I want to add one more thing to his story. When we bought that RV, Scott had anticipated on keeping it for life and saw all the different ways that we could use it. So it took him a good 3 to 4 months before he was okay with letting it go.
It was a really cool RV. And I'd never owned one before my whole life.
But it's something when you declutter of really being honest with yourself. Am I really going to do this? Or do I really need this item? Because sometimes it is a hard choice to make. But with that being said, every week we give you a gift that's tangible, applicable in your life. And today's gift is spring cleaning.
Show of hands, different things you've received in the past from the receiving basket. We give a gift, a physical, tangible gift every week. This week's gift is a tool.
Got trash bags. We've got 2 of them. One is for trash and the other is for recycle, or for things that you might use for a yard sale, secondhand store, things you can give away.
One of my friends who is one of the best, the premier horse trainers in the world, definitely in the country, but I believe in the world. People have asked her for years, how do you train horses so well? And she said, one simple statement: I make what I want them to do really, really easy. And I make what I don't want them to do very, very difficult. That being said, when we ask you to spring clean, we empower you with the tools to do it. So that when you take this home, when you look at this throughout your week, you know you got your homework of just filling up one bag. If you're an overachiever and want to do more than that, great. But just start with one bag. So we invite you to take one, as Mark's passed them out. Now the other bag is recycling. Recycling. And what this is this is your box number 2. This is the things that you have in your world that you no longer use, but somebody could. Somebody could get some use out of. We ask you to pay it forward into those people who can get some use out of it. If you're one of the people who has 82 blankets, think of me. Think of someone like me needing just one of them. We invite you to use this bag. Now, also, Mary is passing out a sheet for the yard sale this weekend, this Saturday. If I could ask you a favor, if you could post this sheet up somewhere. If you live in a condo complex, post it on the bulletin board. If there's a grocery store or an herb store or a place that you normally go that has a bulletin board, if you could post it up there for us, that would be really cool. Also, if you have some time next Saturday, if you could show up and help us work the yard sale so that folks who have no idea what connections are can put faces to folks and go, wow, well, who are all these folks with these t-shirts and what's going on? And these seem like some really cool folks. I think I want to show up on Sunday and check it out. Now also, if you get a bag, this bag, your recycle bag, with all kinds of stuff in it, and you say, well, now I don't know what to do with it. Now I still have the same amount of clutter, it's just in a cool black bag. If you'd like for it to go somewhere, we invite you to bring it on over to the house sometime this week, or even at the card party on Friday. And we'll help you get it out to somebody who can use the stuff. So today's gift is kind of a 3 or 4 part gift, a little motivation, a little tool to do it, the decluttering, the paying it forward, the connecting with people, the helping this family grow, being of service to God and yourself all the way through. At the beginning of the service, we say we have 2 goals: a better understanding, closer relationship with God and myself, and tools for life mastery. And we help the world as we help ourselves and each other. These tools will help us to accomplish all of that tangibly this week. These tools up here his Native American tools will be available to you just after the service, right out here.
The second part of giving or receiving and giving is, since it's a two-way door, is giving.
Now with this, I got approached by Ed this week, and Ed said, you know, I went to a church once and they told me, real simple, if God gave you more than you need, put some in the bucket. If you find yourself needing some, take some out. And that was it. Enough said. So, if you have some extra, we're going to pass a bucket and invite you to put some in. And if you find yourself a little lacking this week, take some out. For right now, though, I invite you to take your gift in your hand and turbocharge it, energize it, and share with us the prosperity prayer. Divine Spirit, bless these gifts. I welcome abundance in my life. Bless and multiply all that I am able to give and all that I am willing to receive.
Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny, hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it and you'll have so many, they'll roll all over the floor.
Welcome back up to the front for the closing song, the Connections Choir.
Have you ever felt as if your life was overwhelmed by all the pressures that surround you, all the struggles that have found you? Oh, now don't you hide your light. Take a chance and open wide. And you will be the change. You will be the change. You will be the change that you want to see, and the world will change. If you be the change, if you be the change that you want to see in the world. Have you ever thought that you are powerless and flawed? Have you questioned who am I? What can I do with one small life? Well, don't you hide your light. Bring it forth and open wide. And you will be the change. You will be the change. You will be the change that you want to see, and the world will change. If you be the change, if you be the change that you want to see in the world. Gather around this song, my friend. Sing it loud and raise your hands. Every single star to shine. We'll become a nation made of light. We will be the change. We will be the change. We will be the change that we want to see, and the world will change. If we be the change, if we be the change that we want to see, and the world will change. If we be the change, if we be the change that we want to see, and the world will change. If we be the change, if we be the change that we want to see in the world.
Ask everybody who stand if you're able and cruise on over and let's make a little circle of energy. The name of this place is Connections because it reminds us that we're all connected. want you to feel the energy flowing out of your right hand and the person next to you, flowing into you from your left hand and the person over there, and filling your glass up. Imagine your body as being a glass. Imagine a garden hose running out of the top of your head, extending all the way to your Creator. Filling your glass up with that crystal clear, sparkling energy. Filling you up to the point that you overflow into the person next to you, and the person next to them, and the person next to them. That we create this ball of overwhelming energy, of clarity, of peace, of happiness, of healing, of dreams coming true, of motivation and inspiration. We all have the ability to serve one another. We all have the ability to help in some way. Be it great or small matters not. Martin Luther King said, all have the power to be great because all have the power to serve. What an incredible day. What an incredible group of folks. Thanks for choosing to be here, for bringing your energy, your A game, for being a part of this family. With God's blessing, can this be a life-changing week for you? I believe that it can. I believe that it can, and I believe that it will.